Stormcast, like Space Marines, tend to get a lot of love and attention whenever it is their time to get some new miniatures, and this time is no exception. There is a whole plethora of awesome new miniatures available for the Stormcast Eternal with the launch of the new edition of Age of Sigmar. I've been sent all of them very kindly by Games Workshop, and I'm going to be doing my best to get through videos for you guys on as many of them as possible. There is far too many for me to do a video on every single one of them, but hopefully if you guys have any suggestions or any ones you want to particularly see, please do let me know in the comments. That'll help me kind of pick and choose. But for the first video, how could I not choose the awesome new character? I'm a huge fan of all of the Stormcast characters mounted on all the crazy creatures and beasts. I love all the beasts in Age of Sigmar, full stop. So I was very keen to get my hands on this guy and get him built and painted for today's video. It is, of course, Iridan the Witness. He's a very cool character with a very cool story, and I am excited to bring him to life today. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons and channel members. Without you guys, I would not be able to continue doing what I am doing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. As always, a thank you to you guys for helping me keep the lights on, the cameras rolling. You will get an extra video every single week directly to your screen. So if you guys out there who aren't channel members, aren't patrons, want even more content, some extra Stormcast videos, extra Brilliant videos, and so on, please do think about joining up below. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in and get this Stormcast miniature painted. Okay, this is the awesome new Iridan the Witness model on his awesome mount. I think it's just so cool. This was one of the things that stood out for me the most when they revealed the new batch of Stormcast Eternal kits to be brought out. So I was very happy to get him. It's a more griff. So obviously I've given the model a spray of black and given a spray of a light gray over the top of it to have the contrast work the way I like it. I've done a whole video on how these sprays work and how I like to spray models in preparation for painting. Feel free to go back and check that video for yourself. Normally I do not do sub-assemblies, but it's very easy to leave his wings detached this time around. So that's what I did. These wings are just plugged in. So I will plug them off like so in order to make it easier to paint it. Not so much the griff itself, but the rider getting in on his legs and stuff like that. So very simple. You can't unfortunately leave the rider off the model with great ease, as you kind of have to put his legs together on the griff and then build the model up from there. So it's a little bit more difficult trying sub-assembly with the guy. After that, we're going to go into Gargak Sewer and we're going to start building up the dark kind of blacky brown color that we're going to use for his like forward facing feathers. So he's like his denser feathers that are in like the forefront of his body. If you look at the examples of how this guy was painted up on the box, he has dark, almost black with feathers at the front, and then it goes into some pallid feathers at the back. The way they painted, there's a lot more black feathers to pale feathers. I decided to go for kind of minimal black feathers and more on the pallid side, just to make the model look a little bit brighter and to stand out just a little bit more on the tabletop. He's still going to be menacing. The griff itself is wearing an executioner's hood. That should kind of tell you all you need to know about how grim this model is and how grim his fate is. I mean, this guy is an executioner of his brothers. If ever a Stormcast Eternal is looking to kind of crack and come apart at the seams, and maybe he's not going to be reforged quite the way they want to, and he's kind of coming to the end of his service, this guy's axe will descend and end that poor Stormcast's existence, and you have to move on from there. After that, we moved on to Skeleton Horde, and we use this for the paler feathers. So normally when I'm doing kind of big bird models, I like the one I did for the free cities and stuff, I like to go for like 3 tones of feather. With this guy, I'm just going to go for the 2. So the Gargak Sewer and the Skeleton Horde will be just what I need to give it the kind of tones that I want. And all I'm going to do is the alternate. So you can tell which ones of the feathers I did in the kind of dark blacky brown color. And they're the really tight, small feathers. Once the model transitions into the large, like huge big feathers, that's when I switch to Skeleton Horde. So it's very easy to know which parts to do and which parts to leave alone. I also use the Skeleton Horde to apply it to the kind of feline back half of the model, just to kind of keep all those colors together. I think it looks really nice, to be honest with you. Yeah, I did it for his feet and his talons and stuff like that as well. I didn't go too crazy. Like I said, this is a more grim dark model, if you will. And obviously don't forget to paint along with the wings that you've left separate. Don't just leave them to the side of the table and suddenly at the end of the project realize you have to go back and paint the wings and try and match and blend those in together. That can be a bit of a pain. It's something that I have fallen for before and hopefully will never fall for again, but it's quite an easy step. I always find it quite difficult to film painting larger scale models. My hands tend to wander, where I'm painting tends to wander. And the amount of footage that unfortunately I ruin because I don't keep it in frame is, frankly, it's embarrassing at this stage, but I do apologize if I miss out on anything. But here is the first 2 colors applied. I think they look really nice. I think it's a very cool scheme for the beast. After that, we're going to jump up to Wraithbone. And we're going to dry brush over what we have done so far with Wraithbone. It is going to make those darker feathers pop. And it's going to add like basically a nice edge highlight to all of the paler feathers as well. It's going to look really nice. It's a very simple step. I mean, we've gone through 3 paints, 2 contrast and 1 dry brush. And we basically have the feathers and skin done for the entire beast. After that, we just get to focus on things like the actual Stormcast riding this thing into battle, who obviously has the majority of the detail on the model. As you can see, I'm even going over his beak. At this point, I wasn't sure whether I was going to leave the beak like this. I was just kind of covering my bases. Maybe I was going to go back and do a big bird yellow beak later on. In the end, I decided not to. I don't think it would have matched the kind of tone. But as you can see how easy this dry brush caches those feathers, make them look awesome. And especially those big feathers as well, look so good. Such a simple technique. Dry brushing. Please learn how to dry brush, people, and add it into your arsenal of painting. You will not regret it at all. The effect that this is going to have on the wings. The reason I'm having this footage go on for so long, because I do want to kind of showcase how quickly you can get a really nice effect with just some very simple dry brushing. It doesn't have to be one of these fancy Artist Opus brushes. Although if you do like the Artist Opus brushes and you want to order them up, I do have an Element Games link down in the description below. You can go and purchase those brushes from there if you live in England. And if you want to buy anything else while you're there, the channel will get a nice little kickback. You'll still save about 10-15% from ordering with Element Games. So it's a win-win situation, especially if you want to order any of these awesome new Stormcast models. Okay, some Basilicanum Grey, and all I'm going to use this for is all of the kind of cracked and broken rocks which he is standing on his base, or not rocks, they're blocks, should I say, as he's landed on some old architecture and crushed those stones beneath him. One of the pillars is not stone, it is in fact wood, which I thankfully realized as I was painting along. But as you can see, I'm just going to make sure to get the grey into all the nooks and crannies. We don't want any of that bright kind of white or grey from the undercoat like shining through. The darker Basilicanum Grey is definitely the kind of colour that we're looking for. Cygor Brown was then introduced, like I said, for the fallen down kind of wooden beam pillar thing that's on his base. And then I also decided to use this colour for all of the harnesses and bridle work and all those leather straps that are holding the Stormcast Eternal on top of this awesome beast. Now you got to be careful with this particular step because there's quite a lot of these little straps around. And you can very easily miss them. Like I almost missed the straps holding these shoulder armor pieces on for the beast itself. So obviously I detached the wings and I'd left them to one side and once again forgot about them. Luckily I realized, so I managed to pick them up and paint the straps, of course, holding the armor onto those parts. And just make sure you go around the reins and stuff. I was tempted to do the hood of the beast itself in dark brown as well, but I decided no, it's like an executioner's hood. I'm going to do it black, so I'll get to that in a moment. A bit of AK Interactive Dark Earth texture paste was then applied to the entire base, kind of blending that awesome rock formation and already existing kind of scenicness into the rest of the Griff's base. It's a very quick step, but most of the time I don't show you. I'm just a big fan of the AK Interactive texture paste. Like I said, if it's something you want, Element Games link down below. Once that is dried, we are now ready to, of course, start moving on with the rest of the base coats on the miniature. We can finally start putting some paint onto the Stormcast. We're quickly going to bash out the base. All I did was dry brush it Ryza Rust, dry brush use Shapty Bone, making sure that when I'm going through the dry brushing process, I'm hitting all the Basilicanum rocks as well. This helps to blend it into the scenery. It adds a really nice shading to it all. Looks fantastic. And then black rimmed after that. A bit of Black Templar contrast paint was then used to paint the hood of the Griff. Very simple thing, just go for it. Now there's certain parts to this miniature which, like I said, I couldn't keep in frame. I was so silly. For example, the haft of the axe. I painted that with Volupus Pink. Very quick, just any kind of nice pinky burgundy color is what you should use for most of the kind of Stormcast sword handles, axe hilts, anything like that tends to be that color, and it does work as a really nice accent color to all the gold and everything else. Obviously, I moved on to the Retributor armor gold next, and this was the slowest part of painting this miniature because it's a Stormcast, and Stormcast love gold. So you're gonna have to take your time and try and find each and every individual armor panel, every nook, every cranny, every little like trinket hanging off his belt, all those bits and pieces. Make sure you get a nice solid coat of gold on top of those. Like I said, we're not going to be going back and working on the beast anymore. So when you're doing the kind of base coats with the gold and any other bits like that, make sure to be a little bit more careful. We do not want to be staining anything with the kind of darker tone colors or anything with such strong pigment like the gold. Nightmare to clean off if you get it in the wrong place. So once we have finally got all the gold in the places that we need to get it, it's kind of go do the same step but for silver, because there's of course a lot of chainmail on this guy. This named character, this Iridan character, has a big chainmail hood. He's got chainmail running down his flanks. Obviously he's got this huge big executioner style axe. You want to get the blade of that done in silver. And then all of the buckles holding all that leather work together. There's about 50 million of them on the model. So make sure you go around and find them. The stirrups as well, holding his feet in. And once again, the armor panels on the wings have the same little buckles. So make sure you go around and get those as well. Ultramarines blue contrast was used to base coat in his big flowing cloak. Now obviously you could use this video up until the point where the kind of griff is painted, and then if you don't want to do a gold space marine, you want to do them in silver armor, you can do silver armor there. If you don't do the blue cloak, you want to do your purple cloak or a red cloak or whatever, you can simply swap it out from that stage. So you can still get things from the rest of the video, and then just pick and choose what other colors you want to drop in and pick out. Obviously being very careful with that Ultramarines blue. And making sure to get it into all the recesses and stuff of the cloak as well. Jumping back over to Skeleton Horde, and we're going to use this for all of the parchment. I did try and record it all down the axe, but as you can see, he's got a huge big parchment piece running down the axe. And then he's got a bunch of them around the side of his cape as well. So just make sure you try and get all those kind of purity seal, parchmenty style bits base coated in with Skeleton Horde. You can see that the axe handle now has turned a nice base coated pink color. How did that happen? Who knows? Really starting to get all the base coats in place now. So with the base coats in place, I believe it's time to start shading the miniature. So for that, we're going to go for null and oil. And we're going to shade everything that isn't the griff. So the entire Stormcast, all the bridal work, all the armor, gold, blue, silver, all those bits are going to get hit with a nice coat of null and oil. This should shade it all really nicely. Give it, once again, that kind of grim, dark look that we are trying to achieve with this executioner style miniature. He should have a certain kind of menace to him on the tabletop. Okay, with those bits done, we grabbed some Liberator gold. And we started layering up all of the gold parts on this miniature. So normally when I do Stormcast or Custodians and stuff like that, you will notice that I usually go in and dry brush this stage. You got to kind of decide where you want to use your dry brush when you're doing a model like this. I could have obviously gone in and dry brushed all of gold, but then I would have had to use brushwork to paint the griff. Because whichever one you do is going to wreck the other one, right? So I decided to get the griff done nice, smooth transitional colors. It's going to be such a larger surface. And I thought that would save the most time. Which means that when it's time to get to the gold, unfortunately I do have to go in with a fine pointed brush, some Liberator gold, and go in and highlight it the traditional way. Edge highlights. Not really edge highlights, I don't really do that, but it is a bit of nice layering and making sure to get some nice scratchy highlights in across the armor. You can see how I'm doing it here. I'm not trying to get like big smooth panels or anything like that. I'm just trying to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of place for like light to reflect and make that armor kind of pop a little bit. Nothing crazy. Nothing that takes a lot of time. You can layer up all the gold on this entire miniature in kind of less than 5 minutes. It's a quick step. Ironbreaker to do exactly the same thing, but for all the silver parts, we're going to make sure that we highlight, of course, his big chainmail hood. Obviously the chainmail on the rest of the miniature, making sure to get all those buckles that we washed black. Just touch the corners of those a bit of silver as well. and of course the big blade on his axe. You can see how gloriously I keep taking this miniature out of focus. I'm definitely gonna have to reposition where my camera is because I'm having this issue more and more when I'm trying to do bigger models, and it's getting tiring kind of searching through the footage trying to get any way decent kind of footage for doing certain areas of the model. It's my own bad, but it's like I said, it's getting annoying. Okay, so Macragge blue for the first layer of the cape. We are going to go for a double highlight of the cape. It's the only part of the miniature we are going to go for a double highlight from because it's such a nice big kind of canvas of a piece on the model that I just wanted it to stand out. I wanted it to look really nice. So we're going to go for Macragge blue and then Kaldor sky. Once again, 5-pointed brush, just following the cloth around the kind of raised areas. Wherever there's a fold, wherever the shade has kind of settled in, you want to leave that alone, leave that as a nice shaded area. And you just want to hit the higher points. You want to also give yourself, with the Macragge blue, room to highlight with the Kaldor sky. If you go really fine with the Macragge blue, then there's not going to be any space on the miniature to highlight with the Kaldor sky. And as you can see, I'm going lighter and lighter and giving some nice depth and color to the cape. Stormcast and their capes, they're awesome. Corvus black was then used to highlight the Executioner's hood on the Griff. Once again, a very quick step, and just like the blue, you're following all of the raised areas and leaving the null and oiled Black Templar contrast in the recesses. This doesn't have to be anything crazy. Take a couple seconds to do. I love Corvus black for highlighting black. It's so good. It's just got a touch of grey to it. Makes it stand out. It doesn't make it look like, you know, a part of the miniature that you forgot to paint, which sometimes can be the problem if you're doing black miniatures. Catachan flesh was then introduced, of course, for all of the leather work. Very carefully layering up all of those. Basically, I thought the reins were a little bit too dark, too close to black. So with this nice Catachan flesh tone, which is supposed to be a skin tone, but it looks so good for leather because it's got that nice kind of warm tone to it. I love it. We painted things like the Griff's eyes yellow and a few other bits and pieces on the model, really standard bits. You'll know what to do when you get to it. Talazar blue was then used for the glowy bits on the model. So obviously you've got a big, huge, glowy smoke plume. A smoke plume coming off of the back of the model and then off of his big, glorious axe. I also decided to use all the hourglasses and fill them with the kind of blue light as well. Whether these are the unfortunately broken souls of the Stormcast Eternal that is he has put to the axe, I don't know. It's just what I like to think they are. Originally, if you hadn't given me any direction, I probably would have done these in like a green color. But I went back and checked the box art and it is a nice blue. With that, I did glue the wings in place and we have our finished Iridan the Witness miniature. Very pleased with the final result. I think he looks awesome. Obviously got to add some grass tufts and stuff to him as well. But I'm very happy to call this miniature fully painted, add it to my shelf of all the awesome Stormcast characters that I've painted so far. There's quite a lot of them now. As you can see, nothing about painting this miniature was difficult when you just break it down into nice, simple, achievable steps. You too can just crack out your model, get it built, follow the steps in this video, and have them on the tabletop very, very quick. Hopefully you learned a thing or two whilst watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please do remember to let me know what other Stormcast miniatures, the new Stormcast miniatures, you want to see me do a video on. I've probably got time in my schedule for 2 or 3 videos, so I'd love to hear what you'd like to see. Okay guys, and there we have it. Iridan the Witness is now fully painted, ready for the tabletop, ready to lead a new host of Stormcast Eternals into battle, and I absolutely loved getting him done. As you noticed by the video, it is very much a speed paint. It's to teach you guys how to get this model on the table very quickly without using any kind of complicated methods or any glazing or any feathering or any mad stuff like that. Just very simple painting techniques to get the model done. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give the video a like. Ask me any questions you want in the comments below. Make sure you suggest which of the other Stormcast Eternal models you want to see done in videos. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on all future uploads. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.